If resources that are meant to cater for simple things like the building of roads or providing health services or ensuring children go to school, if these are misappropriated, then the very things that are supposed to happen don't happen. If agreements that are supposed to be honored between the government and their doctors is not honored, doctors do not go to work, people die. You know, when you talk about the numbers, you don't get the story. When you talk to individuals who've lost loved ones because of it, I know, because this weekend I had a very, very, very close friend who was cremated. And if I look at the problems that they had and how it got to the point where they died, it's because there were no doctors to care for them at a very critical time. In my mind, if you are responsible because of the decisions you have made for the death of individuals, that's now crime against humanity. Criminality is not just imputed, it is proven.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think if we had sort of really forward-looking prosecutors or very public-spirited prosecutors trying to... Because, I mean, in fact, let's start with something quite simple, like, say, the way the cancellation of contracts that exist, like you're saying, or not honoring existing contracts, either for service provision or of whatever kind. If you think about the Greenfield terminal here at the airport.
Yes.
So a government makes a decision to cancel, but that decision will cost Kenya,
Yes,
several dozens of billions
an
of
amount
shillings.
of money that could have completed the project.
That could have completed the project,
Yes.
or could have been used
Elsewhere.
Yes. in provision of health services.
Yes.
So the persons who made that decision, should we not hold them to some level of personal responsibility? I agree with you, we should. Otherwise, we the way the thing is, people honestly continue to make decisions, not because they don't know, but driven, as I said, by individual, commercial type interests. So people are looking for where to make money for themselves or for their cronies or for their contractor friends. And those decisions are not really to the benefit of the rest of the Republic.
Would you say that the leadership at the very top really does point us into the direction that decision-making of this sort, of this nature, can take place?
The tone at the top is the most crucial. What you will see, if you as a political observer, you will see the character, the culture has changed quite considerably. If you look at the last 3 or 4 administrations, that, for example, during President Moi's time, the culture at the top was very sort of gossipy, and government went, so if the president went one direction of the republic, you went there because if you are not there, your colleagues will get you hounded out, which was very wasteful because government was always on the move. The character of the NAC administration was a bit more professional, albeit that they got into Anglo-leasing and so on, but generally it was understood. If you are caught with your hand in the till, you are by yourself, and you actually go out. Yeah. When you go into Jubilee, you see less of that, where people accused that your ministry is corrupt, or you yourself or whatever get actually protection, and therefore that culture comes back. And if you look at this administration, I would have to say that culture is now really back.
Full blown.
I mean, parliamentary committees are not even hiding when if who unto you if they're inquiring into something you are involved in, and they'll say, well, wapi was there, openly in the public. They are not hiding it.
But when it comes to that personal responsibility as the holder of office and as the leader, we see that a lot, that argument being brought out a lot by governors who say, I have a chief officer. I mean, I'm only the governor. The accounting officer is the chief officer. The accounting officer is somebody else. Why are you asking me all these questions? Why should I take responsibility?
Well, personal responsibility or political responsibility, as we called it in NAC times. And again, I would give you just a very old example. One time, many years ago, there was a train crash in India, and the Minister for Transport resigned. I mean, obviously, he was not the managing director of the railway corporation or the chairperson or whatever, but something had gone dramatically wrong under his watch, and that is what political responsibility is about. Of course, we ourselves as citizens, we also ought to be punishing. Yet what we do really seem to do is to glorify this bad behavior. If people are accused of corruption, shortly we begin to say now, we retreat to our tribes and we say, huyu ni wetu, mtu wetu ana
Ni vita.
ni vita. So we seem to reward this bad behavior.
I want to come back into budgeting.
Yep.
And as we're looking at, national government, we've talked about it a lot. And we seem to be forgetting that counties are also coming up with their own budgets, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So there's 400 billion shillings of equitable revenue that will go to counties. And they're also expected to make their own budgets, factoring in own source revenue.
Which they have. And the budget cycle is the same, both for national and county government. You start off at county level, we call it county fiscal strategy paper. And you release it way in January, which is saying, my expectation of my economy is this way. My expectations about my expenditure will be at this level. Therefore, I would expect to raise this amount of taxes. And if you do intend to borrow, you show the borrowing that you're going to undertake. That is followed by a debt management paper. If you do intend, whether you intend to borrow or not, you must present a debt management paper. So if you intend to borrow, you say, okay, I don't intend to borrow. And if you intend to borrow, you say, this is how. That is the case both at national government.
Yeah.
By this time, you have released the estimates, what we call printed estimates. So even now, if you go to the Treasury website, you will find 5-6 gigantum budget books that show the expenditure items proposed for the coming year. You will find, for example, OP budget is going up. The office of the deputy president, all these budgets are actually going up by 2-3 billion. So they are not really cutting there. Same case with counties. Counties have presented their county fiscal strategy papers, have done whatever. By now, they ought to have released the printed estimates.
Yeah.
And counties will also by now have released their finance bills. And the finance bill is the annual, I guess, taxation law.
Yeah.
But what we should remind the listener is that the finance bill only talks about what is changing. Yeah, it talks about what is changing, not necessarily
repeating everything.
Yeah, you see, like income tax, there's an income tax act.
Yeah.
VAT, there's a VAT act like that. The finance bill shows what is changing. And it's the same in the case of counties. And counties are expected to raise revenues. Now, I want to be careful here because maybe 70%, and look, this is just my own guesstimate, but a large portion of county revenue is not tax in the ordinary sense. It is a fee for service. In the national government, it is what is called appropriations in aid. Just complicated wording, but what it means, when you pay for something.
Yeah.
So most county revenue is a fee for service, and that's a difference between what counties are doing in national government. As a matter of fact, there have been some attempts, for example, to say, can KRA not help counties to increase revenue? And KRA has found it a bit difficult because, you see, KRA has coercive power. KRA says, pay or else. I mean, it's not a debate.
Yeah.
Pay or
else.
And what you have to pay, for example, income tax, or tax on income, or VAT, So And if you don't pay, they can actually get into your bank account and take out what they think you owe them. Not the same for counties. Take health. Counties raise health, which typically we've been calling Facility Improvement Fund. They raise monies from health by providing health services. People come to your hospital, they buy meds, they come, they get laboratory services. So when you don't have, you can actually see those counties that are doing better on service provision
are raising more money.
In own source revenue. And as a matter of fact, counties, in just another 10 days, I think, we have a conference around this. And 6, 7, 8 governors sharing their experiences, those who have been growing their revenue, sharing their experiences, what actually are they doing to make this revenue go up? And what most have told us, it has to do with service provision. And health is the best example. For counties, by the way, health is 50% minimum, both of expenditure, but also of
revenue.
Comes from health. So it's slightly different. The only taxes counties have are property taxes. But the rest of it is not quite, okay, you could say single business permit. But the rest of it is a fee for service. Yeah.
And many of these taxes are paid yearly, are they not?
Yes, like a single business permit is charged annually, although many counties, I think, do also agree for people to pay by installment. Property taxes, again, are annual. Interestingly, the biggest defaulter in property taxes is the national government.
It doesn't pay counties.
It doesn't pay
Land rates.
counties. It's called contribution in lieu of rates. Since government is special, it's contribution in lieu of rates, but they don't pay.
Is it possible for this whole process that we speak of? Because obviously, like we say, we're at the tail end. The budget making process began quite a while ago. So then with the announcements by the minister or such, the whole process has taken place. But from what you're saying, it's not void of politics. Is it possible? Should the budget making process not be apolitical?
Well, that is a really deep debate and question for Kenya. Until 2010, the budget making process was very much driven by technocrats, by Treasury. Remember what I was dramatizing, how the minister would come out with his briefcase.
Yeah.
That process was seen as not really yielding for Kenya. Because remember, by January of 2008, when we came near civil war, the question of inequality or inequity that some parts of this republic had been so left behind, and had been left behind deliberately. And so the genius, if you will, of the Constitution 2010 was to say, look, budgets are about resource allocation. They are about people. How can that not be politics? So the National Assembly was given incredible power to determine what actually goes into the budget. Although, unfortunately, the National Assembly promptly surrendered that power back to the executive.
Yep.
But the reality is that the National Assembly can take things out of the budget or add things into the budget. And that was supposed to democratize the budget so that moving forward, no area of Kenya is left behind because of decision makers. And those that had been left behind previously were to be brought up via the Equalization Fund. But we made a mistake there because the Equalization Fund is managed by the same bureaucracy of Treasury that had led to these inequalities in Kenya. So it is a political process. It is designed as a political process in the Constitution. So now, of course, now it gets certain expressions like one man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, and other things like that, that then people get confused about.
They cloud the whole conversation.
Yes, but it is a political process. It is designed as such.
Cannot City keeps asking this question that even as we are talking about, division of revenue, how much is going to counties, what's the capacity of each individual county in terms of just own source revenue, and how are they faring? You're saying you're hosting a conference soon where governors will come and give their experience. Are they coming up and saying that in my county, looking at studies that have been conducted, we should be able to raise 20 billion shillings, and we've just hit $1 billion now? And,
Well, as a matter
and what
of-
those challenges are,
as a
and
matter
how
of-
can we get to the 20?
As a matter of fact, they are. The Commission for Revenue Allocation has very helpfully done detailed studies to say what is the potential of Kiambu County, what is the potential of Nyeri, of Garissa, of Kisumu, of all counties of Kenya. The reality up to now, we are not even hitting 30% of potential. So governors will be saying, look, I have moved, say, from 200 million to 1 billion. Maybe my potential is 4 billion. I'm not there yet, but
I'm heading there.
I'm heading there, and these are the things that I have done. And remember, because most of the revenue is a fee for service, when counties are succeeding, it means actually citizens are getting
Their services.
better. Well, it means several things. That perhaps people are not helping themselves to the money, but it also probably means that they are getting better and more services. That's why they are paying for them, and that's a great thing for Kenyans. But yes, counties are saying, I see what my potential is, and these are the steps I'm taking to get to my potential.
But Excellency,
Yes.
Excellency, forgive me for interrupting you, but you have mentioned something very pertinent there. People are not putting into their pockets what they used to. Question, when you say potential, how much is actually collected and how much is actually remitted? I know there's been this talk of, we are all using technology now technology can be tinkered with. Technology can be ignored. Okay? The question around understanding where the loopholes are. What CRA have done was done before when we had councils. And it was understood at that time, the very thing you're saying. It's only a third of what was collected at that time that would actually end up in the local authority. 2/3 did not. Are we saying that story has changed?
Well, I would like to believe that story has changed, City. I mean, speaking of my experience when I was governor
Which
here.
is the exception? We're talking about the rule here.
Indeed, we're talking about the rule, but allow me to start there. We were able to move from around 400 million to $1 billion when I was in office. I have seen many other counties. I've seen Homa Bay particularly do it quite spectacularly within a year, move from about 150 million, 160 million to $1 billion.
What?
Yes.
In a year.
In about a year and a half.
What was
150 million to,
To
$1
1
billion shillings
billion.
is
To $1 billion
That is
shillings.
850 million shillings.
More, yes.
But my point
That is Muranga, the same case.
It's gone to $1 billion.
It's
now.
gone to $1 billion. Now, if you ask those governors, what is it that you've done? What you will find, and Governor Wanga will explain, is that, she has used technology, she has cleaned up the people's systems. So it's a whole management process. And it's the same in Muranga. So I would like to think, yes, technology helps. Because, you see, City, when people handle cash, it's a terrible thing.